In a universe where life does not end at death, we explore the infinite possibilities forged by our very minds. Welcome to Arthadian Anthologies. Greetings, fellow travelers and storytellers. Welcome to the Arthadian Anthologies podcast, where I, MS Arthadian, dive into the ever-expanding universe I'm developing and the deeper meaning behind it all. We have made it to the final saga in Season 3. So far, you've been able to learn of the challenges that the Yen have faced, the emergence of the Dusk, and the corruption plaguing Core Command. In this final saga, you will get to follow two separate storylines. One that will focus on the main overarching plot that's been hinted at for some time now. And the other I'm super excited for, as it will be my first time on the side of the story. So without further ado, here is the first entry of the final saga of Season 3. In the dark, drab slums of Sector 399, an enhanced Prime cloaked by a navy cowl that covers his face emerges from an alleyway. Across from him is the most prominent nightclub in the Pretermit, the Optical. As he scans his surroundings, there are 3 guards posted at the entrance, each of them slumped against the wall as the night shift drags on. One of the guards anxiously flips a tech blade, with the second passing between each twirl. Approaching the entrance, the lead bouncer intersects his Prime's path inside. Towering a 1.5 feet above this unknown guest, he grunts, "State your name and business." The cowl shifts toward the other 2 guards, as the one flipping the blade takes a step forward. They all prepare themselves for trouble as this unidentified figure fails to respond. Looking back at the 2, the lead bouncer chuckles. "Looks like we got ourselves a silent..." In a sudden blur, arcs of violet energy course through the body of the 7-foot-tall bouncer. He convulses to one knee as the other 2 are too slow to react. In a matter of seconds, the 3 guards are paralyzed on the stained tiles at the entrance of the Optical. Stepping over them, this unknown emissary enters the nightclub owned by the Red Eye Syndicate. Stepping through the entryway, 2 paths illuminate with red sconces that curve along the ceiling. There's a thick aroma in the air that makes it difficult to breathe. On the bright side, our enhanced Prime activates its environmental pack that filters out the dense chemical mixture in the air. As he looks down the 2 paths, they seem to converge back to one another, like an ellipse. He smirks, thinking about his master's wisdom, and heads down the right path. Under the sconce light, The walls vibrate to the sound of electronic overtones that generate an atmosphere of leisurely pleasure. Upon visual inspection of the inside of the optical, the prominent shape found is an ellipse. The walls curve around in this manner, along with an elliptical bar at its center. Each table follows the same design, as speakers are mounted in a way that causes the music to spiral through the many swaying bodies. Shuffling through the crowd that huddles around the bar, a Vo Yen dancer tries draping her arm over our prime's shoulder. With a quick motion, he catches it and politely moves her aside, away from the crowd. Taking his 2 fingers, he pulls out a Volts chip and says, "Find me the Overseer, and you can have this." She attempts to grab at the chip, but he pulls it away from her reach. A grin extends across her face as she winks at him and begins making the rounds. With the cowl still covering his face, he watches her ask around for approximately 5 minutes. Then she approaches a Kron Prime adorned with a silver-plated M-Tech armor that radiates a faint orange aura. She tries to swoon him, just as she did with our Prime, but he has none of it. After he shoos her away, she stumbles back over. "He was quite rude," she slurs over her words. "That's definitely your Overseer." Her hand opens up as our Prime places the chip in her palm. She looks at him and continues to slur. "If you get bored of him, you know where to find me." From beneath the cowl, she sees a bright purple eye that glistens from the lights shining in the club. He begins marching over to this Overseer. Once reaching the table at the far corner of the ellipse, he reveals his face beneath the cowl. His eyes are a violet blue, with a light tan complexion. He has 2 notable scars across his face, across his left eye, and wavy brown hair that is pushed to the left. With a shift in his posture, he pulls his navy cloak aside, showing an armor plating on his chest. On it is a sigil that marks him as a plasmatic knight. A heavy sigh erupts from this Overseer's lungs. "You must be the one that's been causing trouble for Enigma," he laughs under his breath. "Took you long enough to find me. Take a seat." Our knight sits down as the Overseer pulls out a bottle labeled Rug's Plug and pours himself a drink. Then he glances up at our knight and motions to the second glass. He turns it down as the Overseer smirks, leaning back in his seat, taking a sip. "So, a plasmatic knight. Not many of you stop by down here. To whom do I speak?" Our knight stares him dead in the eyes. "Carver." The Overseer nods after taking another sip. "Plasmatic Knight Carver. You are quite popular in the South Channel of 3099. May I ask, how did Enigma tick you off?" Carver's eyes stay locked onto the Overseer's. His expression reads, "Stay out of my business." After one more sip, the Overseer's lips pop as he mutters under his breath, "All right." Then he claps his hands together. "Shall we get to business then?" Carver nods, still locked onto his eyes. "Good." The Overseer leans over to his left and pulls out a codex. From what it seems, the other Overseers have uncovered that the Syndicate Web has been convening near the outskirts of the Scrap Towers. The true Enigma could be found there. He nudges the codex over to Kyver. With a quick tap of his own codex, Kyver retrieves the scanned coordinates. Standing up, he locks eyes one last time and says with unwavering confidence, "If you find yourself notifying the web, You may also find yourself losing feeling in your muscles. Just a friendly reminder. He places another volts chip down on the table and heads for the exit. Leaving the optical, Plasmatic Knight Kyver flips his cowl back over his head and begins his trek to the location on the scan coordinates. His mission is his own, which means he will not receive backup from the Plasmatic Knights. I thank you for listening to this entry. Kyver's story will continue next week. Plus, several special treats will be coming at the end of the saga. So be sure to stay up to date, as you won't want to miss the conclusion of Season 3. If you are just now joining the anthology, check out arthadiananthologies.com for more content that expands this new expanding universe. You can also support the creation of this podcast by donating through the link found in the description of this episode. Until next time, travelers, be safe, stay safe, and if death comes to you, may you be reborn in power.